Okay. So, I'm actually driving in the car right now. Don't worry, pussies. It's all hands-free. But I do apologize for the background noise and the blinkers and all this shit. Probably beeping and cursing and all the stuff that you're going to hear in the next 10 minutes. So, I wanted to talk about, and I know I'm a little late on this. This is yesterday's news or 2 weeks ago's news. And that's how really the news cycle in this country works. We find an issue like a statue being taken down. We fucking hit it hard for 4 days, and then you don't hear about it until the next big, oh my god, this is crazy moment that we kind of push over and over again. Oh, this fucking guy didn't even use his fucking blinker. But anyway, getting back to the statue removal. This is probably the dumbest thing that we got going on. And I get it. I'm not a minority. So I don't understand how someone will feel about General Lee. I'm also not a Southerner. So I don't understand the Confederate flag either. Like so I don't get that. I know Southern pride is, they go crazy over this shit. So I'm not a Southerner. I mean, to me, it's kind of like, hey, I'm making a bet with my friend, and I lose, and he throws it in my face all the time, and I'm proud of it. Like, I just kind of silly. But getting back to the statues and the history in these statues. Modern civilization was pretty much formed through conquest. And a lot of things happen when you do this. And I'm not a war veteran, but I'm sure that if you speak to many war veterans, it's not portrayed this heroic, epic battle thing that goes on. Sure, the stories fit that mold afterwards. But it's gruesome. And it's meant to be gruesome. And especially when you're talking about past events that have happened a long time ago. Just think, 100 years ago. 100 years ago. 1992. You would have told me I could watch fucking porn in HD on a handheld device and call people with it? I would have told you you're crazy. So, you have to understand. People back then, this is the way these things were. People were ruthless. It was not uncommon. Christopher Columbus was an awful, awful human being. He did awful things. But awful people sometimes do great things. And I think that's where we miss this point in all of this. Is that just because you're an awful, shitty person doesn't mean sometimes you stumble upon greatness. Look at most great people throughout history. They're all a bunch of fucking assholes. Narcissistic. Ben Franklin was a fucking playboy. There's this... I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but I don't remember which Star Trek it was when they went back in time and they met the guy who invented space travel, and he was just a fucking drunk. Okay, so we have to take these things into context. If you really want to know about what people were like, go back to that movie. Watch it. And you'll see how probably most of these people really were in their day-to-day life. So, I don't think we're looking at the statues properly. We're looking at as the man himself, General Lee, George Washington, whatever. It's not about that person. It's about the achievements they have made. And that's really what it comes down to. Because people forget that General Lee was in the Northern Army at some point. And, if you think that the Civil War was solely about slavery, you're just misinformed. So I would like people to educate themselves on this stuff. But like I said, I am not an educated man by no stretch of the imagination. But when there's a topic that I'm interested in, I do research on it, like what you should do. The problem is that I keep referring to, this is a very parrot-like society. Monkey see, monkey do. So if I post something on Facebook attached to an article, it must be true. It has to be true because it's right there for me to see. Well, unfortunately, when you do research, and anyone who does research will tell you that you're going to come up on a lot of stuff that's not accurate. Okay, so you have to find the truth in a bunch of bullshit, essentially. That's getting multiple sources. Because, to be honest with you, some of this shit is documented, but we'll never know the full-on 100% truth. And we weren't living in that time, so we don't know how it was. So next time you take a statue down, stop getting this reactionary, fake rage, white guilt, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and stop and think a moment and go, well, what did this guy do? Oh, we're going to take down Columbus' statue. That was the big one following. Oh, he only discovered and colonized our country. Yes, you want to talk about, what was it, Leif Erikson, don't do it, fuckface. I told you you're going to hear some of that shit. And, think about what these guys have done. Good and bad. The pyramids were built by slaves. Are we going to run and take down that? Where's the outrage in that? Thanksgiving? Well, we all know what happened after that. But yet we celebrate it as a moment to give thanks. And when I've talked to people, and I brought this point up to them, well, it's not about that anymore. That's what they tell me about Thanksgiving. It's not about, what happened. It's about just being thankful, giving thanks. Okay, well, I kind of would say that's kind of like the statue issue. Well, it's not about that. It's about this man's accomplishment. So before we start ripping down our history, let's know about it first. Because they don't teach that shit in school. Okay? I've learned nothing about history in school. I learned it all on my own. So, before we start doing anything more stupid shit, like pulling down statues and pulling down flags and getting uptight about shit, listen, we don't enslave people anymore. That doesn't happen. Are there racial diversity? Jesus Christ. That's what happens when someone just cut me off. Are there divisions? Is there division in this country about race? Absolutely. 100%. But, think about it. We're not enslaving people at this point anymore. Multiple people of color have ascended to the highest level of office in this country. So, let's stop with the bullshit and leave the statues alone. That's all I got for today.